Hi, I'm Michelle, and I had Alex number 2. I'm presenting her life, and I'm going to start off with what we know about her. We know that Alex is African American. She was born of two African American parents who were both in the medical field, well educated, well off financially. She grew up, in a loving home and had pretty much everything that she needed. She was cared for by a nanny, and then her mom ended up kind of taking some time off work to be able to stay at home with her a little bit later. So Alex was born with some great opportunity starting off her life. So the first stage of development is her prenatal development. And normal prenatal development, we see that all the major organs are constructed within the first 8 weeks of your life in utero. From months 4 to 7, the brain nearly doubles in size, so we see a lot of growth happening while the pregnancy is happening. Then we see this life event that has happened, and that is that her parents experience a hurricane that destroys their home. Our textbook talks about fetal programming research, and this studies to explore how intrauterine events may epigenetically change a person's genetic code. So I found this super interesting because you don't really think about things happening outside of the womb affecting a child in the womb, but it has a huge impact when it's a traumatic event like this. So even though her parents recovered, they were able to go on with their lives and move into another beautiful home and had baby showers and everything was happy. This traumatic event has lifelong impacts for her, including low birth weight and or preterm birth, maternal stress that can lead to negative cognitive effects even into childhood and adolescence, including low test scores. And then our study by Fuller states that children born to black mothers are significantly more likely to suffer negative impacts of hurricane exposure. So we know that this event that happened even before Alex was born can have super negative impact on her life. We move into infancy, and we see in our text, according to Piaget, infants are learning to assimilate and accommodate, and by age 2 they begin to use reasoning. Normal infancy development also includes going through the phases of attachment, and as John Bowlby explains, having a primary attachment figure is crucial to development. Now, we don't know who that person was for Alex. It could have been her parent, it could have been her nanny, it could have been someone else, but we know that she did have to develop at some point a primary attachment to someone. Our milestones in infancy development include rolling over, crawling, walking, and talking. And the event that happened at this point in Alex's life was that she was showing signs of delayed developmental milestones. The good news is that motor development has a wide age range and has no relation on later intelligence. However, speech delays can be responsible for low IQ scores. And also developmental delays can cause children to be separated from others that are developing at normal rates. So we can see some struggles happening in her life at this point. Next, we go into her childhood. During this stage, normal development includes advanced motor skills like learning how to ride a bike, developing self-awareness and self-esteem, and cognitively, our brain is developing our working memory and executive functions. At this point, Alex is struggling with symptoms of ADHD, and our textbook talks about how children with ADHD show deficits in executive functions and have problems with working memory and selective attention. So these developments that are happening to this point, there can be some obvious signs that she's struggling. Our textbook also talks about the epigenetic forces that are involved in an ADHD diagnosis, including premature birth. So again, we go back to her life in the womb. We also see that there is an average of a 3-year delay in brain maturation, mostly in the frontal cortex, and that ADHD is tied to lower than normal dopamine output, which means that children are less affected by punishments and rewards. And they're socially ostracized a lot of the time, and they're more likely to struggle with substance abuse, depression, and bipolar disorder, which we do see in her next stage of development, which is adolescence. During puberty, hormones in the body rapidly changes from children into adults, physically, emotionally, and sexually. We grow taller, girls develop breasts, boys start growing facial hair, and our minds are racing to keep up with all of this. Our emotions are at an all-time high at this stage of everyone's life. We know that Alex's father struggles with drinking, and that this is an issue in the marriage and causes arguments between Alex's parents. So she has some stress at home. And at this point in her life, her mind is all over the place, her body is changing, and she's got this stress going on with her ADHD, she's got some delays in her development, and now she's dealing with this stress at home. So she has decided that she is going to experiment with drugs and alcohol. And we know from our book that risk-taking teens are more likely to be involved in alcohol-related auto accidents, and that drug and alcohol addiction affects brain development, including endorphin and dopamine releases. The most disturbing fact that I found in this section was that 80% of substance use disorders in adults began under the age of 18, so she has a much higher risk of being a substance abuser as an adult. So we come into Alex's early adulthood, and in this phase, people are making decisions for themselves, possibly for the first time ever. And this can lead to some parent-child conflicts, as parents are learning how to parent adult children, and children are learning how to become adults, so this creates some conflict at times. We're going to talk about the identity statuses that are in our textbook. The first status is identity diffusion, where you don't know where you're going, nothing is appealing to you. Then we have identity foreclosure. This is where you just come to a decision with no thought or self-exploration. Maybe it's what your parents want you to do, you just succumb to that. Then we have the moratorium status. That's when you're engaged in the exciting search for an adult self. And this stage can cause anxiety because you are making a life-changing decision. And finally, we have identity achievement. This is when you actually make the decision about what you want to do. We see that Alex seems to be stuck in an identity diffusion stage. And she decides to drop out of college. She doesn't know what she wants to do, so she makes this decision. The good news is that she has made this decision, and it was hers to make. So we know that she is coming into her autonomy, and that is promising that she is moving through those statuses and hopefully coming into the moratorium stage to where she's going to start exploring. The negatives to dropping out of college obviously are lack of education and possible financial results in the future. But we see also that college helps develop identity change, cultural understanding, and personal control. So there are other risks of dropping out of college other than the obvious. And the stress of being in college and being forced to make these, adult decisions can lead to weight loss or gain, gastrointestinal issues, and headaches. Then we move into the middle adulthood phase. This is a phase of life that a lot of people are either getting married, having relationship changes, maybe having children. They move, they may have a career change, their body changes as they become a little bit older, maybe some health changes are going on at this stage. And for Alex, she gets divorced. And divorce, again, is a huge negative, has a lot of negative factors, but also positive. The stress of divorce may cause weight loss or gain, and for her, it can impact how she feels about her physical appearance. There can be struggles in the areas of neuroticism and conscientiousness. But while divorce brings stress and negative feelings, it can also foster feelings of independence. Again, she's making a decision for herself. So we don't know the situation involved. It may have been, abusive or a negative situation, and she may be making this change for the positive. So we hope that that's what's happening for Alex. Later adulthood stage, a lot of people here are on the verge of retirement. They're thinking about their financial future. They're done parenting. They may have health concerns, but this is what a lot of people refer to as the golden years. And for Alex, however, she is now raising her grandchildren. So this can lead to accelerated aging, which is associated with a low birth weight. So we go all the way back to the beginning again. Your working memory begins to decline. So all those daily routine things that she's going to have to get back into with raising her grandchildren, she's going to struggle with cognitively. And we see that grandparent caregiving is linked to decreased peer network interaction and social isolation. So her friend group is going to change or disappear altogether, as a lot of people in her stage of life aren't doing what she's doing. And finally, we have the end of life stage. Now, we aren't given any details on Alex's end of life or her death, but we do know some things that she may have experienced. She may have had failed health. She may have been in a nursing home or a care facility. What we hope is that her family was surrounding her and supporting her at this stage of her life. They may also have been making decisions on her behalf to do with her health care, and of course with her, funeral and anything final like that. So at the end of her life, we hope that she started off the way that she did at the beginning of her life, with a loving family surrounding her. So that is Alex's life for Alex number 2.